Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us at the Enchanted Inkwell. I'm Michael.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Blake.
And well, a lot has happened since we recorded the last time. I think, first and foremost, the Lorecast. We are recording, for the viewers, we are recording on the Wednesday after the Lorecast, which is at a kind of an unfortunate time to do a live broadcast Tuesday at 10 a.m.
Yeah, when it's, like the big hyphy introduction to the new promo cycle for the next set. It's right in the middle of a work day. I know a lot of folks would want to be able to be hyphy about it, maybe after they got home or something like that.
Well, I mean, one thing that they did really well this time that they haven't done in the past was they actually had a VOD of it, right?
So good.
So you're able to kind of watch it after the fact. If you can dodge spoilers and not be on socials or whatever for the full day, at least you get that experience this time around.
Yeah, true.
But I think like you kind of touched on it, like with such a large marketing tool, it's kind of a shame that like we can't get together at, our LGS on a weekend and just like all watch it together or kind of have a watch party. And you kind of mentioned an idea of like doing it at DLC or something like that.
Yeah, I think, right. There's 2 different DLCs happening 2 weeks away, right?
Yeah.
Why not just pause that for 2 weeks, have that information in between rounds, spread it out in between rounds, and you have more content going on with your streams. It's just a far better, format for you to be able to get that information out rather than just during the workday when everybody is already busy,
Yeah, even though the DLCs are administered by like a third-party company, right? PPG runs the DLCs. You already have the infrastructure in place to be able to stream that. Like there's already like an internet-facing presence for DLCs.
Yeah, you can just send them the media package, right? Just like, oh, like this is Ryan Miller talking, or Ryan Miller may be there.
Yeah.
And then just, hey, do the reveals there or something like that.
Yeah, and just have the Marcom teams maybe like interface with each other and figure out like a really good way to present it all together. I think that's cool.
Right, yeah. And there are certain aspects of it that could already be pre-recorded as well that could just then be added into. One of the things that I did want to highlight that I actually really enjoyed was the sort of like background of what was going on with the timer
that
just
was
before
really
it started.
cute.
And then it kind of really gave you that the vibes of the older television show.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, like even just hearing myself repeat it back, I guess Lorcana is not specifically only meant for like DLC competitors. So I guess having it separate from, at the risk of like not alienating casual players, but maybe like, I don't know. So I can see even maybe like not associating with the DLC, but to go back to you were talking about the stream, it was so nice to see like an art director who got to work on the project and like Ryan Miller's energy for it and talking about like the age of sailing and all of that. It was really cool. And like the shirt on a shirt in the timer, it really you captured it perfectly. It did feel like that completely.
You know what I really actually enjoyed was, I don't know if anybody really paid attention to it, but leading up to the Lorecast as it was kind of counting down, or maybe this is what you were talking about, but you kind of got like the Mr. Rogers feel. Like welcome to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Like, he was like he was changing his clothes in the background and you're like, oh, okay. Like this is like, you're like, oh, this is like, very like, just like a fun vibe. It's just now clicking for me, Blake. I was like, you like the cool swirly graphics in the back? I don't understand what we're talking about right now.
No, it was the dusting off the bottom of the feet part where I was like, where are we going with this? Like he put the same shoes back on. Like what is it was cute. It was nice.
It was a really nice touch, I think.
Yeah.
And so go back to kind of what you were talking about. I don't think putting that information in the DLC would actually alienate any of the casual players.
No.
Just because DLCs are also for casual players.
They have side events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who doesn't really want to play competitively should 100% always try and go to one of these events. I hope they have thousands more, just because being able to enjoy your community and then go and see that on an expanded level is so much fun. And then you end up, if you do multiples, right, you end up meeting people that, like, let's say you're collaborating on a forum. This is where you get to meet those people in person. And you tend to form these bonds and these relationships that when, you know, that gaming is done, right? I no longer travel to like Magic events, but there are people that I will still, if there's a local Magic event, I will go. I don't play Magic anymore, but I'll go to those events just to see those friends.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, having been to D23 for the first time this year, and just like the energy of like your group of con friends, like the energy of having like a group of DLC friends and stuff like that, I think that that's an incredible experience, and that transcends whether or not you make it to day 2.
Right. And I think, let's say if somebody's going to Las Vegas, right, you're potentially going to get your opportunity to meet Britt. And so I'm sure she would love it if you came and said hello.
Like,
so, I mean,
new friends.
Let's just a larger community.
No new friends for me. Thank you.
He is the most like friend-oriented human in the world. Don't listen to him.
Well, I wanted to springboard off of what you guys mentioned about the DLC is not necessarily being for hyper competitive players, right? And being for everybody, and how these like larger con events can have a lot to offer. And I think that is one thing that the Lorecast inadvertently kind of gave us like a tiny morsel again of something that we talked about after the D23 recap episode, which was questing, right?
Yeah,
like, I believe they kind of just mentioned
the quest.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
you go ahead. You know a little bit more about what was said, so please take it away.
No, I fully ran over you. No, just the it was not materially important to correct the name of it, but yeah, the quest information that we got was a few sentences of hype, which was cool, and it was that like the quest might not necessarily be about playing the game. It could be about dressing up. It could be about doing activities. The vibe is like I wouldn't say overwhelmingly. I get like DisneyCon, like LorcanaCon vibes off of it rather than DLC vibes. Was that your impression of it too?
I don't really know what my impression of it was. I just know that he spoke a little bit briefly about trying to clarify a little bit more of it, which I totally get because we speculated, right? We were talking about like getting cards signed in the park, right?
Yeah,
everything we could possibly think of.
Yeah.
So I like getting more morsels like that. I wish we got more because this is an aspect of the game that I am excited about. I really want to see where it goes. Even being sort of the hyper competitive person that I am that wants to do DLCs at the competitive level, there is a part of me that really wants to be able to just go to a DLC type event and just play side events and hang out with friends and not have to worry about, okay, like what's my record right now? Am I going to have to do this or that in order to be able to, day 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think the aspect of just having sort of community at these larger events is what really appeals to me. And I hope that they will continue to expand upon that sooner than later at this point.
Yeah. Big hype.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that like, it's like a big deal that it's not necessarily gameplay related, right? I think that it will do a good job to push the game to a broader audience and maybe keep a lot more people that, that may have the impression that DLCs are only for competitive people or whatever. It might bring them out and say, no, like I can go and I can just participate in these quests. I'll be able to get a promo by dressing up. I'll be able to do this with my friends, so on and so forth. And then also, we've seen it at DLCs before. Previous DLCs, but they've kind of made it official with their announcement of like official rules support for Pack Rush.
Awesome.
Right? So then that's also a featured side event that they offer at DLCs. It's an on-demand. It fires on demand whenever they get enough interest, which is 2 people. They can fire a Pack Rush, and that's like a very, very, in our eyes, casual format, but that again brings people out to just come and say, hey, I want to hang out. I may not necessarily want to grind 9 rounds of Lorcana, but I'm down to open a couple packs and raw dog and enchanted on the table, right?
Oh my gosh.
Like just play an enchanted Snow White with no protection.
Oh no. And that is such a cool it's a cool way to open packs that isn't just like rip pack open, flip to back of pack. I like it. It seems fun.
You just rip pack open, flip to back.
I told you, impulse control.
Zero.
Not always. I've gotten a little bit better about ripping the pack open and then sorting into colors. But that is like when I've got a participation pack or something like that, or when I'm at the set cycle where I'm like, I cannot open another pack of this.
You know how much packs cost, right?
And I do, in fact.
Yeah, which is why you should delay gratification and go card by card. Every common counts.
Listen, I'm busy. I got a lot of things going on. I need to figure out whether or not this investment is paid off. Okay. Flip back.
So to add to that, something that was pointed out in the Lorecast that I thought was really cool that I hadn't noticed yet, actually has to do with the design of the card, which was the comment that they made about where the flavor text, the quote at the bottom comes from. That was cool. Which is like actually got me kind of hyped to go back and look at all the old cards to see which one has the pen, which one has the book, and which one has the music notes, right? Yeah, and for the viewers, if you haven't watched the Lorecast yet, or if you don't know what I'm talking about, they referenced the flavor text, the quote that's at the bottom. I believe if it's a book that leads that breaking line, it means it came from the movie or the story itself. If it's a musical note, it's a lyric from the song. Yeah. And then if it's a pen, it was written by the Lorcana creative team.
So stinking cool.
I thought that was like really cool and like a kind of like an Easter egg that like nobody, at least that I've seen online, has pointed out yet.
Yeah.
That was really exciting to find out how much, like we know how much effort they're already putting into making this such taking an already beloved IP and just expanding on it and making it cool and giving the art treatment sound like a cool, just bring us into this world, right? And it's like I think it's like little nuggets like that kind of like make it even cooler, where you're like, oh man, I can't believe they even thought about that, you know?
Yeah, and to that effect, or to that point, the reference that I've seen to Azurite C, there's a Monstera or Monstro card. Monstera. There's a plant. There's a Monstro card where the flavor text at the bottom makes reference to the sea. And now I'm like, I gotta go through this entire state. I want to see, because we've got Shimmering Skies, we've got Azurite Sea. I'm forecasting what the next. I got some. Listen, I've already telegraphed it, but I'm gonna do some hunting in the flavor text to see if I can divine
the
what
wildwood winds and the majestic mountain.
I was thinking it was going to be land because of it's like traveling by sky, traveling by sea, traveling by land. But you do make a good point about
there's so much terrain.
Wind would be air. Yeah, there's so much terrain.
Good luck.
A lake.
The tundra.
The tundra. We love it. Yeah, no, that is so cool. I was talking to somebody about this recently, about the way that they've structured Lorcana as being like, you can love the original IP of it, and we're not actually going to like touch that. So if that is like fully formed as the thing that you love, Glimmers are inherently like a multiverse of the characters that you love. And like, you know, as a girl who grew up on the internet and fandom, like alternate universe stuff is so cool. Imagining characters in, you know, universes that are different from their original, you know, context. It's just such a fun thing. Like Baymax in Baymax's world, one thing. Baymax and Lorcana, different thing. And both of those things can be held with love in their own context.
I'm kind of excited to see what Floodborne Baymax is going to be.
No,
that would be.
yeah,
I mean,
that's
that'd
actually
be
a good point.
Pretty crazy, right? Like,
yeah,
you get flooded with ink, and then he gets like Inspector Gadget. Like he's just got like rockets and
right.
like
I was
everything comes like
Floodborne in terms of a villain
everywhere, like ink casters everywhere or something. I don't know. That might be pretty cool to see. That super robot enhancements.
That would be really cool. I don't know why I immediately flashed to like evil Baymax and went no, but no, like just like Inspector Gadget Baymax. That would be so stinking neat.
Right?
Or like I love the whole like kaiju movie kind of thing. And so if it was like, like who's Baymax fighting? Giant robot Baymax. That'd be cool.
So one of the other things that they previewed is accessories, right? So I'm actually pretty excited about this, but I'm on the opposite spectrum. I know that everybody is just so Elsa,
mm-hmm.
and I get it,
mm-hmm.
but I mean, me being an older male, like Frozen, maybe not my biggest IP, so
Fair.
I'm but that Donald to me, speaks volumes, and I think it's up there with the Tink playmat personally.
Really?
I think long term it's gonna hold.
Yeah,
it's gonna be good.
Right up there with the Steamboat Willie.
Steamboat Willie is. I don't know if anything is anywhere near Steamboat Willie, but
like top tier
Steamboat Willie.
Yeah,
S tier's Steamboat Willie.
Yeah.
Next is Tink.
Okay.
So then I'd say third is probably Donald. I know the Bell mat is really good though.
Yeah, for me,
I just don't know where to put it yet. There's not enough mats.
From a personal branding perspective, the color contrast on this Bell mat, just like the purples, the reds, and like this one's S tier for me. This one's like the top mat that has been released.
Yeah. Honey Wizard, but I don't have a Honey Wizard, so maybe I have sour grapes there. Tink, Belle, now Elsa is S tier for me.
I guess Shiny Rapunzel,
Shiny Rapunzel, yeah,
man.
Shiny. Right, and what was so then Stitch and Ursula? How Far I'll Go is a really good one too. Yeah, that Scar. Okay, if we would have gotten Scar as a mat, and I know that they don't do matte box sleeves in the same, like they spread it around a little bit, so you're not gonna. What I've noticed is they don't do a playmat, a card sleeve, and a deck box all in the same set. But that Scar from Shimmering Skies is so cool.
Everybody enjoyed that art when it originally came out.
Yeah, it really pops on the card for sure. I am so very excited for Elsa. Pre-order in already. On lock.
Nice.
Let's go.
That's great. I mean, I know that there were some troubles getting accessories. I mean, I think still the LGSs are kind of getting delayed on their accessory shipments.
I think we just got ours. Yeah.
Okay. But hopefully, I got this one through Big Box, and so
yeah, mine was a pre-order through an LGS, and it was with 2 other friends. I still don't have the Bell.
Oof.
It still hasn't been fulfilled, but that's okay. Listen, there's no shortage. I have a mat on a mat in front of me right now. It is. I can only play with one at a time.
Yeah, I think what ends up happening, as you will discover as you continue playing TCGs, playmats just keep coming, and then you just end up with a pile of playmats and just confusion on what to do with them or where to put them at this point.
We have a playmat cubby. Okay. There's a cubby.
Yeah.
Of many different hobbies.
Well, I think interestingly enough, because of the scarcity of playmats in this game and the number of people playing, the playmats in Lorcana tend to actually sort of hold collector value.
They do.
Right? Whereas even this morning, there was a pretty large drop of the first chapter on a big website retail. And it just seems like there's an endless supply of the first chapter, which from a collector's perspective is kind of a little scary, right?
You're talking about sealed. I thought you were talking about playmats and I missed it. The look on my face, I was just heartbroken.
Yeah, if it was first chapter playmats, it would have been a complete. That's all we'd be talking about right now.
We need to make a podcast oath to each other that if first chapter mats drop again, we'll look out for each other.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll buy Max mats.
I'm crawling out of bed way too late to be able to get any of the goodies.
Never mind. Blake and I'll cover you. It'll be fine.
I'll just owe more taxes.
Taxes.
The tax. Yep.
The tax. So when it comes to the cards itself, the IPs that we're looking at are Big Hero 6 and Rescue Rangers. I did not sing it just now, but I was going to. There are folks of an age who have that imprinted on their brain.
Cha-cha-cha.
No, don't do it. We'll get copyright stricken.
I don't know that they could match Blake's singing voice to the original recording close enough that we have to worry about that.
I am yeah, you had called the shot a million years ago. Okay, yeah. Like 4 episodes ago.
Well, no, I mean, I remember kind of watching a lot of Rescue Rangers growing up.
Yeah.
So it was like really fun, and Chip and Dale were always awesome. What I was alluding or what I was wanting was just Chip and Dale, because kind of Chip and Dale's like kind of Christmas special is kind of holds a place in my heart. And I was kind of hoping to like have them and their shenanigans, but I'll take, Magnum PI Dale and Indiana Jones Chip if I can get them.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like for me, it's too early for spoiler season. Like we're still in the heart of Shimmering Skies right now. And so I'm not particularly ready for spoilers. But
right. We've only had a few, we'll call them medium to large size events, even shaping up this set 5 metagame to start working on set 6. It kind of goes back to the fatigue that a lot of people are already experiencing, where, maybe I don't think they're ever going to fix this, but maybe 4 sets is just one too many a year. It also, so the other reason why I would always be a proponent of slowing down on the sets is it gives the designers more time to develop sets as well.
Sure.
And if sales don't seem to be the problem, like why not just sell more of X set instead of trying to push multiple sets that are then going to break even with a certain sales goal, right?
Well, if they're intending there not to be a set rotation, if all of these cards are evergreen, in theory, right? Then you can do more with more cards. I think that's a very simple thing. You're not alluding to that at all. Or
I think that's a really good point, right? Yeah. So one of our previous complaints is that there just isn't enough depth for certain archetypes, certain deck builds, right? And
even certain formats. Like I feel like from the time I jumped in Floodborne, I was like, oh, what's the 100 card singleton format? And people are like, please stop asking. There's not enough cards, so.
I find that to be a really weird question too, though.
The singleton format?
That it's just an automatic, like there has to be a 100 card singleton format just because one other game blew it up at one point in time, which was a completely different. It was a community casual thing, which I will go on record and say was far better for the game before they started making cards for that format. When they started making cards for that format, it eroded the game as a whole, and it's still eroding the game because their focus went to that format and they stopped caring about the other ones.
Well, I have big opinions about why they did that.
And there's other aspects where it's like, why couldn't it be a 60 card singleton format, right? Like there's certain, and we even did this early on, right? The 2 IP deck where it was, when we were in our league, we just wanted to come up with a creative way of not building strictly meta, which gets stale when there's not a huge format for it. Sure. And so we had come up with this idea. It was like, okay, it can be 2 IPs, but it could be any ink colors. So you could just make whatever you want. And it had to be minimum of 40 cards, right? So it was like, if you wanted to pick the IPs that had almost nothing to them, you could still kind of put a deck together because you could go through all the inks. And we had a lot of fun with that. as sort of a community format, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's why I say I just find it odd that like there's this very specific idea of a format that has to be, whereas I think I would like for people to be a little bit more creative, create something new out of the game that we have rather than emulate something else from a different game.
Yeah, I think Double Feature is a great example of that, the 2IP format. I think.
Dang, give it a name and everything.
No. I cribbed that from the internet, my friend. That is not a Brit original by any stretch. But yeah, so in totality, I'm excited for there being new cards. I understand what you're talking about the tempo of it. We had a friend who no longer plays Lorcana who that was one of his main beefs in the Inklands to Ursula transition. He was like, I have just opened X amount of cards and you're telling me like the spoiler dropped less than a month later for the next one. The tempo, it was just not super palatable for him.
Right. But to go back to what you were saying with the 4 sets a year, maybe that is the plan, right? That they're going to do 4 sets a year for the first 5 years just to flood, not necessarily the market with cards, but to flood the market with options, right? Card choices. And then they can take a step back from there. I think and I hate to speculate this because we don't really know what's going on over there. But I think from a financial standpoint, it would be really hard to, go from 4 sets down to 3 just to be able to make it easy. And a lot of people say, well, they could go to 3 and then some sort of like core set. And it's like, I hate the idea of that too. It's like, just make the cards.
I would like a supplemental set, like maybe 3 sets. I haven't really thought this through, but but 3 set releases a year, and then maybe like a holiday set, or like a summer set, or like a or whatever, and then maybe the cards are similar to the first 3 sets but printed with different art, or maybe the cards are completely different, or maybe it's just like one IP, like this is the Hercules set, and like everything in this set it's a smaller set, but we're going to feature a bunch of Hercules cards or something like that, right? Like,
what if instead of a set it was more like the Ursula's Quest, so it's 3 actual sets and then some sort of supplementary game product that just introduces the game in a new way?
That'd be really cool.
I think that would be really fun because it's still something to look forward to. But, as somebody that has already invested in the 3 others, it's not necessarily something you would feel like obligated to invest in. Yeah. But then it would also pull in, newer players or players that are more casual that just want the sort of like set program of like, oh yeah, this is the adventure that we're going on with this block of set. And that's part of it, right? They could take those 3 sets from that year and create that sort of game or storyline aspect using all 3 sets from that year. And it kind of ends up being like an end, a capstone to the year of like, hey, this is an adventure using the sets that we released this year.
Yeah, Ravs, you guys hiring for ideas? Like we got some.
I'll fight both of them if there's only one opening.
We'll yell ideas until we're blue in the face.
Well,
they may not be good ideas, but they'll be ideas.
Hey.
But what it's such a good transition into. They're obviously like open to changing existing structures, right? Because we see the gift set that they announced is different now. It's not a set-based gift set, it's a character-based gift set, and they knocked it out of the park with Stitch. That lore book with all of the different Stitch arts, that was just such a good idea because I know that wasn't something that I was on the hunt for on release, and now it's changed things for me. Stitch might be I'm still hedging on the Stitch, but if you were to hit me with some of my favorite characters, he is one of my favorite characters. I don't think I would pass on that.
And I understand that. So specifically speaking with all the other sets, I which is interesting, right? Because I talk about how I'm a collector
Yeah.
and I have, a sealed trove and all these other things. The gift sets have not appealed to me at all. And I understand, the first chapter ones made a lot of sense because it just at a time when you were just clamoring for packs, it made sense to get them. But I just don't see a whole lot of function for oversized cards, right? There's just certain aspects of it that don't quite appeal to me on that level. So I've never really been interested, but I can honestly say the new Stitch one, Blake's interested.
Super cool.
Blake's got money. Blake's got money to throw at Stitch.
I'm pretty hyped for the Honey Wizard. I'm pretty hyped for the playmats. I'm pretty hyped for everything that they announced in the Lorecast. I know I don't know if I've shared this, but like my brother's a big Hero 6 person, and it was easy mode to screenshot the Go-Go Gadget starter deck and send it to him, and he was like, Go-Go and Gadget in one starter deck? I was like,
how do they know?
They were listening.
How do they know?
I don't know.
That's how they got me.
That's how they got
Moana and DuckTales. And I was like, how are you going to take my like favorite recent movie? And I mean, we've talked about this, right? Yeah. Like the soundtrack to that movie, just straight to the feels. And then Tears. DuckTales is my childhood.
Yep. Right.
And then it's like, even my wife, it's like, oh, hey, let me get that starter deck. And she's like, you're done.
You're cooked.
You're done.
Yeah. And that Aurora and Simba, I was a big Lion King kid, like had the tape that went with the little book, and you listened to the book and you read the book, and I like wore out the corners of the page, like flipping it, like licking my finger and flipping it. And that's like weird and gross. But, yeah, I am, they've just got like such a good, the way that they combine those starter decks.
They have
awesome.
I'm gonna break the secret open on this one. They have one guy in some strange like R&D capacity who sits in his little like basement office, like making sure that he has his very specific stapler, right? And he has literally just run the analytics of like, okay, so somebody between the ages of this and this probably has this sort of personality, watched this show, and also is going to enjoy this movie from 30 years later. Right? Like this is
Lorcana Moneyball.
It's
yes. It's exactly. It's like it won't make sense to you, but we're gonna get runners on base. Or we're gonna get dollars in pockets.
Yep.
At the risk of debunking, can I just alternative suggest we are all the same kinds of nerds? And
no, it's
the
not.
Things that we all like. If somebody was like, "Hey, Britt, would you want to play a Gadget Go-Go deck?" I'd be like, "Sweet, I love Gadget and Go-Go," and they're like, so do we. That's why we put them in a deck together.
It can't be that easy. Metrics.
Yeah, it can't be that easy. There has to be some sort of conspiracy aspect of this.
The conspiracy is that we're all
turning
nerds.
into a Lorcana conspiracy podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes.
I love this.
Our next big conspiracy is, why is Steel Song all of a sudden gone from top 8?
Well, actually, very nice transition. I think.
See, I've been working on it.
You've been
Slime's been sliming slimely.
Nope, failed on that one.
Still working on that one though. Let's talk about some of the. Okay, so the funny thing about recording a podcast in advance to meet like a publish schedule is that sometimes you record something with a take, and then the next day an event drops, and you go, yeah, that didn't age well. So
what are you talking about?
Me being much warmer on Ruby Amethyst than I think I am now after seeing.
Oh, because I felt like I did really good where I was like, no, the metagame will adapt and Red Blue will figure it out.
This is why.
Blake solved it. But they solved it too fast because now he can't go to DLC and crush with it.
Well, let's talk about it.
Interestingly enough, though, the forums on these decks are still just completely undecided.
It is crazy because like you tune into those things and you hear, or you like, for me, I watch and I absorb the information, and everybody feels like as far as I can tell, everybody feels like their deck is not in a good spot. Like that's just like the general consensus. Everybody is like, man, this feels so not. It doesn't feel tuned yet. It doesn't feel great. There's work to be done. Like, I'm not sure I'm bringing this to Vegas. I'm gonna go somewhere else.
I went from running this 300 times to see if I liked it to running it 30.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, in last episode, I was talking about the whole, 62, 64 card thing. That's what's happening to people. They don't know what to cut, and they feel like there needs to be this answer for this deck or this answer for that archetype. And so they get to a point where they can't trim it down to 60 because they're like, no, I just need all of these cards and I don't know what else to do, even though we all know mathematically 60 is the correct number. You should not go over that. But for whatever reason, like what Michael was talking about, where people just don't feel like they're in a good spot.
And it's across the board. It's not like all Steel Song players are feeling great, like or any other deck. Is everybody is like, oh, I'm not confident in this. Like we're 50-50 into every deck, and that
joke's
every
on
deck.
you. I wasn't confident to begin with.
And I mean that might be a good space for the game if every deck feels like they're 50-50 into every other deck. Like if that's the consensus or the feeling, like that might be just kind of a good spot where anybody could take it. And then it kind of just comes down to a skill matters, pilot matters more than anything. Right?
Absolutely. It goes back to that conversation we had about eliminating mistakes.
Sure. And to that point, you saw Ruby Amethyst take it with No I'm Not at the 1K.
In Tampa.
Right. And then the 2K, it was Lemon Lime.
Right. I mean, yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like you mentioned No I'm Not. He also top 8'd the 1K or the 2K, right? The next day. And he's been somebody who's perennially just been on Ruby Amethyst. He's been a resource for that and been a big proponent of that deck. And it kind of just shows that experience, the reps that he has with the deck, the knowledge that he has with the deck, he can convert and make results happen even if other people claim that it's not in the best spot, right?
DeCandio did it with Steel Song, right?
Right. Same thing happened with same thing happened there. He won CCS as we previously discussed, and then he lost in the finals to Lemon Lime in the 2K. But again, he's played Steel Song for a really long time. He's been pushing that deck and trying to innovate with that deck, and he's comfortable on that deck, right? Yeah. But when we fast forward, I don't know if it was a week or a few days to the Lion Cup that happened, Steel Song didn't even make the top 8. Like, does that mean Steel Song's gone necessarily? No, I mean it was still all over the top 16, but or it did make
Steel
the top
Song,
8, sorry.
yeah, but it was 7th and 8th.
Right.
Yeah, and there was just so much Sapphire Ruby, right?
Yeah, it was Ruby Sapphire. I think there were 3-4 decks of that, and then Sapphire Steel.
Right.
So arguably, 5 dime decks.
But then surprising, also, I mean, surprising to me, finish from Blurple, right?
So that's the thing that's surprising me too, because I would have thought Emerald Amethyst before Blurple, but I think that's maybe my Amethyst bias. No, my Emerald bias speaking, because I don't play a lot of Sapphire. But Blurple,
I feel like it just becomes kind of a natural predator because nobody's looking for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So it ends up being the rogue deck, which occupies a space where, I mean, when you're prepping for a tournament, you're really prepping for the matchups you're going to face. And then from there, you just kind of have to do the best you can against the oddball decks. Most of the time, if you have a tuned meta deck, you're going to beat the oddball decks, right? But every once in a while, something like Blurple can show up and be pretty strong. And we've actually had people in our community say that, like Blurple is a competitor, like whether or not it can remain a competitor, because again, once you become a known entity and people can start tuning around you, right, it becomes a thing. But Blurple did show up, right? It showed up as 3rd in Leon and 3rd in the 2K in Tampa, right? And so it's not like it's a completely unknown entity at this point in time.
No, and the Blurple player in our friend group is originally a Ruby Sapphire player.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting, just in a anecdotal capacity.
So from a prepping standpoint, if somebody's watching this a week out from Vegas, right? We're releasing this on the 17th, so a few days out from Vegas. Would you advise them to prep for the Blurple matchup? And if so, what's Blurple's plan? I'm not super familiar, so what's the Blurple plan, and how do we counteract it?
I think you're better to focus off against the mainstays, right? We talked about the big three being Red Blue, Ruby Amethyst, and Steel Song. Those are the matchups that, regardless of what deck you're playing, you want to know that matchup inside and out. You want to know what card you want to play, what card you want to ink versus, each matchup. From there, if you have additional playtesting time, then you can start kind of nailing some of the other ones, some of the other matchups. So like Blurple obviously had a strong showing. Lemon Lime won the 2K. You could also make an argument for, I think there was an Emerald Sapphire Clarabelle deck, right? So those are the matchups that, you want to know that they're on your radar. You want to have some sort of plan for, but at the end of the day, you really want to focus on the decks that you're going to see most often, which is going to be those big three.
Yeah.
Do you, after seeing these results, let's really quickly do you think the breakdown of Vegas Birmingham metagame, the share of the big three that we mentioned, Ruby Sapphire, Ruby Amethyst, and Steel Song, do you think that spread changes a little bit to be a little bit more even, or do you think that Steel Song still is going to be the main, take a larger share than the others?
I still think that Steel Song is going to take the larger share than others.
Okay.
When you look at the matchup and sort of, it's like a tennis match, right?
Okay.
Going into this past weekend, everybody knew that Steel Song was kind of the deck to beat after the 10K or 10K. And I think that we saw the metagame adjust to that. And then, so going into really this weekend at this point in time, whatever large event that's going to happen is now you're seeing that, Ruby Sapphire is on the map. So it has found a way to adjust to beat the Steel Song decks, or maybe just that many people pivoted to Ruby Sapphire because it's supposed to have a better matchup against Steel Song, and it just flat out performed when it needed to, right? I mean, because two Steel Song decks did make the top 8 of Leon, and they got bounced out in the first round. So probably ended up going against Ruby Sapphire and getting smashed.
Getting unlucky,
yeah.
So does that mean that aggro is going to be the sleeper hit if people are on top of the Ruby Sapphire?
No.
I don't think so either.
Still no.
So and the reason for that is that even if Ruby Sapphire sort of rises to prominence. So if we go back and we look, if I remember correctly, I said that Steel Song was going to be conservatively 20%, but more likely 30% of the field. Ruby Amethyst was 15 to 25, and then Ruby Sapphire probably again around 15%. Even if you switch those numbers, right? Ruby Amethyst probably stays the same, 15 to 25. Let's say Ruby Sapphire takes the top spot, and it's now 20 to 30%, and Steel Song is only 15 to 20%. You still don't see aggro coming in because you still have 40% of the field minimum being Steel Song and Ruby Amethyst, which absolutely knocked the hyper aggro decks out.
Yeah, 1000%. I think I'm cooler on Ruby Amethyst from my projections last time. I am ice on Amethyst Emerald, but I would still like to see it, come out maybe in top 16. Warmer on Blurple than I expected to be, for sure.
I'm reinforcing that Blue Steel will win out of nowhere because mean it top 4'd in Lion, right? And so something's happening there. Somebody's gonna figure something out. I believe in the power of Blue Steel. I want to believe in the power of Blue. I believe in the power of Blue Steel.
Full chest.
I feel like the Blue Steel players, the Blue Steel community, they have done a lot more to sort of really introduce new cards that people weren't really looking at. And I think that their ability to be creative is consistently keeping them competitive in a format that I don't necessarily think benefits them. So I think it's completely possible. Blue Steel is similar enough to Ruby Sapphire that, they're both the control deck at that point in time.
Right. I mean, not to completely blow up his spot, but I've been working with somebody in our community who recently got their Vegas ticket. They got off the waiting list. They got him, and he reached out, and first of all, he gave me some well-deserved on not being on Blue Steel for the set, and I explained to him that I was, playing around with other decks and just getting to learn the way other things played. And then he kind of threw some receipts at me and said, "You said Blue Steel wasn't going to be good in this set, or you said Blue Steel wasn't
good for you, whichever homie that was,
tuned for this meta." But
to be fair though, the results haven't been there.
Yeah,
he has no receipts to prove it.
Yeah, fair.
It was more anti-mic receipts than anything.
I think it's just community, just you're gonna tease those that you love.
Yeah, we've been razzing each other for sure, but also helping him brew a little bit and seeing what he's cooked up, and he's been testing. He feels really good about his list, and I've been suggesting some things, and that's why I believe Blue Steel will win, because he's gonna take it with my help of tuning this list, and then we're gonna try to convince Blake to be on it for Vegas, and then there's gonna be Blake and him on it. So then they'll meet in the finals, and then it'll be Blue Steel Winter.
I actually am getting a sneaking suspicion. I used to have a Ruby Amethyst Treehouse group chat that has since died. There's no chatting going in that group chat. And it is because one of our the guy who takes our locals all of the time, he is off Ruby Amethyst and he is on Amethyst Steel. And I think maybe I have a sneaking suspicion I know who else is in your DMs about a whole new world tomfoolery.
Everybody wants to be in the DMs about a whole new world tomfoolery. That's the place to be. That's where the cool kids hang out.
I'm starting to get if you can't beat them, join them vibes.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
But Blue Steel Winter? You're really gonna go
Wait, Winter Camp Blue Steel?
No,
like
Necro Winter. It's a game destroying, format warping.
No, it's
meta shift.
You're talking about Magic.
No, yeah, it was just a reference to a time where basically it was play that deck or play something that can either be that deck, but that doesn't exist, so just play that deck.
Do you remember the decks that were trying to beat it at the time? Do you remember at least the number one competitor?
No, I doesn't even remember.
Arnhem-Geddon.
Oh, okay.
Arnhem-Geddon, from what I remember, in the first tournament where I went to, and it was just flat black dominance, it was Arnhem-Geddon in that deck, and then nothing else really came close, which is why it just ended up being Necro.
No, I just the reason I said Blue Steel Winter is because Vegas is happening in September, and then Winter's coming, and then for dramatic effect is really all it was.
Hot Girl Summer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're going with Blue Steel Winter.
Wait to see what the graphics are for this.
It's just going to be a PSL. Well, that's probably more fall.
No, it's just going to be snow overlaid the whole time on top of the video.
Literally, there's a card called Winter Camp. This is such an easy shortcut. Yeah. Okay. So the bold
predictions have been corrected or adjusted, or in my case, just doubled down on. But Blake, have you settled on what you're playing yet? Any idea? Any closer to having an idea, or
not even close? I mean, I hate to say it, right? Mm-hmm. We're 10 days away.
Yeah,
10 days away, and all I can think about is just getting through this work week, and then it's going to be this weekend of okay, put some things together, start testing, and then try and tune as best I can going into the event. Okay. Interestingly enough, I don't feel overwhelmed or stressed.
Sure. It's because you're dissociating. The stress has reached a level.
It's very possible. I think it's also just the fact that, we had kind of gone over this. I think it was the last meta where you thought I played a certain deck, and then you realized I don't know what Blake plays because I just would show up every week with something else and play.
Yeah.
So my feeling is that whatever it is I decide on playing, whatever intense training program I go through, will be enough, or at least enough for what I want it to be.
Yeah.
In order to get me ready to go with that deck. As far as like what deck to play specifically, I don't really have an answer for that.
Sure.
I've just been absorbing more and more information, right? These results help try and figure things out, but also at the same time, I already have some of the fundamentals down, so I'm not worried about the fundamentals. It really just comes down to card choices and specific interactions. What ends up being better, right? So it's like, do I play this card and do I tap my or do I exert my Rafiki and bait out the queen so that they don't fishbone quill on turn 3? It's those sort of small interactions which you might not think actually matter, but can end up being huge for the game.
Let me hit you with another sweet transition. You don't know what deck you're going to bring, but what else will you bring to an event like DLC Vegas?
Yes.
Stole the transition right out of my brain. I was like, comfortable shoes and a water bottle. Wink.
I'm like the worst person to ask for this, right? Because all traditional value for how to sort of get yourself ready for one of these events is literally the smartest thing, right? Wake up in the morning at a decent time, like get yourself a breakfast, make sure you go to bed at a decent time and get a decent night's sleep.
In Vegas.
And then but like this is the the best advice. Get a good night's rest. The sooner you can submit your deck list, the better off it is too, because the longer you wait, the more you're just going to think about it. That could keep you up potentially. Whatever it is, just have your decisions made. Get a good night's rest. Get a good breakfast. Take some snacks. Bring yourself a refillable water bottle, and then just make sure you have whatever it is you need specifically. So for me, it's obviously some carrying capacity. I usually just bring a backpack. I don't try and overload the backpack. Like I'm not going to bring a bunch of trade binders or anything like that. It's just going to be the essentials. It's going to be a water bottle, deck box, deck, and some dice, and a way to keep count of the lore. I'm not trying to go outside of the box much. I don't want to be carrying a bunch of weight for 9 potential rounds. I don't want to have to worry about losing my bag or any of the value that's in the bag. Worst case scenario, I'm out of deck and I'm out of the tournament. But, it's just those things. But again, I'm kind of like the worst example of this because I got into the mode of doing intermittent fasting. Okay. Which then translated really well into tournament spaces where all I really needed was water. So I was never worried about eating because as far as I was concerned, it was the normal thing, right? And I do that still to this day. I'll go to work and I won't eat until after work because I just intermittent fast. There's something about eating during the day, during the event, during my work day that like post lunch, like crash. Yeah. I don't like that. I don't like experience that in the rounds. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that if you have like a small snack, right? Like a banana and an apple juice, you're going to crash. So there's ways that you can mitigate it, like bringing some healthy nuts, right? Walnuts are a good option. Almonds are a good option. Yeah. Those are kind of my classics. So if you need something to eat, definitely bring something with you, right? Because the cost and quality of convention food is terrible. Right? You're going to pay an arm and a leg for French fries, something greasy. You're not going to feel good about that. Your brain's not going to feel good about that. You're not going to want to do better because you had fries or a hot dog or a corn dog. It's just not a good option. So bring friends if you can, right? Yeah. Like having friends to talk to. And let's say you don't have any friends, right? Like let's say you're somebody
at the event in general, you're a very beloved figure.
Yeah, let's say you're the one person in your community that was able to snag a ticket, because that's a real thing.
Oh, for sure. You can be our friends.
Yeah, just find everybody there is there for the same reason.
Absolutely, Blake. I'm gonna be busy. Find Blake.
Find
I got you next time.
He'll teach you all his diet tips. That's going to be the spin-off podcast, by the way. Blake's diet tips.
Con specific event
No.
Yeah. It's a very short podcast. It's don't eat.
And even I prefaced it with like, I'm not the best example for this.
Sure.
So I would go with the traditional: get sleep, get a breakfast, bring snacks. But, try and make friends. I've found that even the most casual of acquaintances can be extremely helpful at times. And sometimes you need somebody to go somewhere else and get something, because you're in round 8 and you don't have anybody. And it's really weird to talk about it in this way, but I guarantee you, if you've got that one person that you keep running into round after round, and let's just say you're talking about your result or whatever, and you're doing really well, and maybe they didn't do so well, they're out of the tournament at this point in time. I'd almost be willing to bet, 90% of the time, if you ask them, hey, like, are you guys going to go get some food or something soon? And they're like, yeah, be like, hey, can you guys pick something up? I'd almost be willing to bet that they would do it for you, because it's a community thing, right?
Yeah, 100%.
You'd want somebody to do it for you, if that was the case. So why wouldn't you do that for somebody else?
Yeah. And I think so my adjustment period, I don't think I've said explicitly, but for the purpose of this part of the conversation, I am going to Vegas, but I'm not going as a competitor or attendee. I'm going to work. So my tips are definitely skewed in that direction. But
yeah, so if you need to win the DLC really badly, Britt is taking bribes.
I actually am, in fact, not. I'm not Mike, I am not a judge. I am not a scorekeeper. I will be at info point. If you need any information, I am your girl. If you need help, I will help you. If you need friends, I will point out Blake. Not Mike, because obviously right now he is already
I'm not gonna be there.
Well, that's true, because you're banned. No, just kidding.
We'll just give you his address.
What was I?
Full doxing of Michael at this point in time.
Let me try and control this runaway train of thought that I'm trying to have. What were we talking about?
You were talking about friends. Finding friends.
Event.
Oh, you were gonna be at Vegas in a helpful capacity and not in a competitor capacity.
Right, but it was something before about what Blake was saying about DLCs versus set champs. I am used to being the orange slice and Capri Sun mom friend who's like, I'm gonna make sure that everybody has food. I'm gonna make sure that the food hits at a certain point. I'm going to, and other stores definitely have been like, they're weird over there. They care, it's like a lunch, they've got food, they're trying to push a Diet Coke on me. It's, it's that kind of thing. So not being able to control some of those factors for obviously 2,000 people or something like that, it turns into how do you look out for the group of people that you can?
Yeah. But I think one of the bigger things to note, at least, is that they do, at least for the competitors, they do have a lunch break. Correct?
Yes. Yeah. So at Dallas, they gave us a pretty generous lunch break. I think it was an hour, almost an hour and a half or something, around the 1 p.m. I think it was 1 p.m., 2 p.m. time, ended around 2 p.m. So obviously it makes the game, or it makes the day a little bit longer from a competitor standpoint, but the lunch break was really nice. I was there with our friend, and we were able to actually go off site. We had enough time to go off site, we ended up at a fast food joint, but hit up somewhere else for food where, unfortunately on Sunday I was playing and jamming a bunch of events and I couldn't get away. So I bought a $15 orange chicken bowl that was not rewarding at all when I was starving. But yeah, no, they do provide you with a very generous lunch break. So hopefully that won't be an issue. I will say the biggest note that I have to take away from Dallas would have been I would wear short sleeves or wear something cool, but bring a second layer, bring a light jacket, bring a hoodie, bring something, because PVG at Dallas cranked the AC so high. If you were sitting under one of those vents, I was freezing.
Yeah.
And it made it really hard for me to even endure. It sounds a little bit ridiculous, but when the cold air is just blasting on you for 50 minutes, I could not be done with that round faster.
Yeah. And it's especially so like Dallas was warm. I remember.
Yeah,
right?
Dallas was like walking outside of the convention center was absolutely unbearable. It was 100 something and muggy and gross. And so that was a big reason I didn't even think to. I did not pack a layer, right? And funnily enough, there was a vendor there selling a $30 hoodies that I strangely saw a lot of people at the event wearing. But it was, they they do a good job of keeping the venue. As far as I can tell, they ran a very smooth event. So I think that's just something to keep in mind, that going to Vegas in September that most people wouldn't think of. Oh, it's going to be warm. Just bring a second layer just in case. A light jacket, throw it in your bag. Yeah. Use it if you need it, because you may want it.
Yeah, my tips. So, like, I had lived in Vegas years ago. Vegas, everything is further away than it appears. So, comfy shoes, especially when you're talking about, big event spaces and stuff like that. Comfy shoes, light bag, like you were talking about. Try and consolidate things down as much as possible. And the water bottle is a big deal. I think make sure that you're hydrated, because if you're already in Vegas and it's already completely hot, like the last thing you want to be is dehydrated in the desert. Even though, it's a very well settled desert. There's a lot of water fountains around, but still it helps to have a water bottle.
Pack a suit for day 2, cuz you got to put some respect on it when you make day 2.
Blake will be in his suit.
Good. I'm looking forward to it. When you
is it like a Mickey Mouse suit, or is it like a 3-piece suit?
It's not a costume. I'm not a mascot.
I don't know. Maybe you've got a cosplay. Like
I realize, I probably should
noted
not
cosplayer.
I just feel like I should not have said that, because if I end up day 2ing now and I'm not wearing a suit, you guys are gonna rip into me so much in the next few podcasts.
When have I ever? He will rip into you. That's for sure.
Oh, like you're not gonna join that bandwagon? She's ready.
I don't think Britt's ever started a fight, but she's never seen a fight she can't
but I'll
finish.
I'll finish. Let's go.
No,
I rise to the moment.
Nah, I mean, I think this is all great. I think that, Vegas is going to be a first experience for a lot of people, like a big event experience for a lot of people. And I think more than anything, enjoy it, go there, have fun, be amongst people be amongst 2,000 other people that share the same hobby as you, right?
Yep. That's just competitors, right? So 4,000 people with attendees and staff.
Yeah,
actually, I don't have any idea.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the attending, but yes, be amongst your people, right? And
utilize your resources. Go to InfoPoint. That's not me plugging my team or anything.
She just
like
doesn't
that.
want to be bored.
No. Well,
come see
her.
I
don't think I'm going to be bored. There's 0% chance. But yeah, by the thing that I can say is that every single person that I've interacted with over the recruitment process and preparation process for this event, every single person has been extremely helpful and extremely knowledgeable and care very authentically about making sure that attendees and competitors have a good event. Yeah. So if there is something that is a roadblock to you having a good event, find somebody who can help with that, because I'm sure that the last thing they want is to hang you out to dry. But if they don't know, they can't help fix.
Well, and I also want to add, do the things that you like, right? There's going to be artists there potentially, right? Were there artists in Dallas?
There weren't artists in Dallas, but there were game designers there. Okay. They were playing Pack Rush. So if you want to do that, if that interests you at all, get in that line. That line caps out and gets really long. Where they were doing play Pack Rush with a game designer, and then after the Pack Rush, they would give you one of the promos from the competitive game OP kits, like even old ones or whatever. They would give you one of those. But that was like really, really, really popular in Dallas.
Were those game designers that we've interacted with at like D23 or anything like that? Do you remember who it was?
At D23. So I didn't get to participate. So I don't actually know who was there in Dallas. So they had that, and then they had vendors, and then they even had Villainous side event. So if you played the board game Villainous, if you enjoy that, they had that too.
Cool.
Yeah. But to my point, like, you know, there's more to do than just play competitively.
Yeah.
So you can, you know, get your cards signed by, you know, your favorite players, right? Like, don't be afraid to approach somebody. In my experience, any one of these players that usually is an elite player, you know, at the top of their game, they love being able to interact with you as a community member as well. So absolutely, you know, if you have a favorite player, like we have a sort of a nice, I'm not going to say the person's name, but there is somebody out there who is, you know, they make videos and they sell cards online, and we have a following within our community where they really enjoy this person. Sure. And they're hoping to see that person there so that they can get their cards signed. You know, it's just the small things like that. It makes, you know, this larger community shrink down to a size where it's so much better.
Yeah.
I want to tack on a quick thing to that, and this is not to naysay or poo-poo on that idea. Do please reach out to the people that you enjoy watching. Any content creator is probably very happy to see you and meet with you, and that's why they make content, right? But also just be respectful. Like, they may be there in a competitive aspect, or they may be there, they may be in the zone. And if that's their time to be in the zone because they're actively competing or trying really hard to focus in some way or capacity, they will most likely gently tell you, hey, like, love to sign your card, not right now, or hey, you know, love for a photo, selfie, whatever, just in a minute, or find me between next round or something like that. Don't press your luck, but also don't take that the wrong way that like you insulted them or anything like that. That's probably genuinely because they are very hyper focused in something at the moment, and they just can't take the time to necessarily do that at that moment.
Yeah, it's usually not a good idea to ask for an autograph in the restroom. Just throwing that out.
Blake's hot tips coming in.
I'm just like flashing back to me at literally any set championship, just like white knuckling, trying to hold on and being like,
Hey Britt, where's the pizza?
I want.
Hey Britt, hey Britt, do you have more Capri Suns?
Literally just me, like, full dissociation into the. So the thing that we were talking about, food. Never mind. The time has passed on that one, but yeah. This is all very designated extrovert advice about, you know, and some people, like, social anxiety is a thing. Extrovert or not, I struggle with that too. But what I have found is that more often than not, people are very kind, and you can't make new friends unless you talk to people who are strangers. So, you know, if it's super comfy, do a little fake it till you make it on the extrovert thing. But if it's not comfy, then I still hope that folks have the best event for their tempo and tolerance, you know, possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, just go and enjoy. Just have a good time. And, you know, hopefully you hit all the goals that you make for yourself at the DLC.
Yeah. And then bet it all on black.
Or red.
Or red.
Or 00.
00. Oh, yeah. I feel like that's bad advice. But yeah, so I'm super looking forward to Vegas and talking about it when we come back, maybe.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to be able to experience this, and then, you know, we'll be able to talk a little bit more about it when you guys get back. Hopefully, you know, Blake will be on his victory tour, and he'll be able to give us an hour of his time once he becomes Lorcana famous. But I think that's all the time we have for today. So, you know, for everybody watching and everybody going to Vegas, hope you enjoy your time there. And thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Nice hanging out with you.
See you there.
Bye.